Okay, everybody, welcome back to the show. Second Cabral HouseCall of the weekend. I'm opening up the document right now. We're going to get to all your questions. Always excited to see what's come in over the past couple of weeks. So looks like we're going to kick off today's calls with Chrissy. And if you didn't get to tune in yesterday, definitely check out yesterday's show. We went through the first labs program that someone was asking on. We went over what happens when someone basically gets exhausted and imbalanced blood sugar levels with any type of exertion. We went over high B12 levels in blood work, even if you're not taking a lot of B vitamins. Then we talked about someone with receding gums, gut issues, excessive earwax, and much more. And then Leah asked about a tortuous colon, why that is, and what to do about constipation. All right, that was yesterday's show, 3508. You can check that out after today's show. But let's dive into Chrissy's first question. Chrissy says, hi, Dr. Ball. Is it okay to that estrogel and progesterone for menopause if you have lymphedema, or will it make it worse? Kind regards, Chrissy. Okay, got it. So you're asking if estrogel and progesterone for menopause-based symptoms, if you have lymphedema, is it okay? Well, so here's the thing. I should probably do a whole show on lymphedema. I have to try to remember that because I'm not going to write it down right now. So many people asking about lymphedema. Lymphedema has been around for years. It's being overly diagnosed, and I'm putting that in air quotes right now. So here's the issue. Well, let me answer your question first. So no, specifically taking estrogen and progesterone won't necessarily make lymphedema worse. However, when you do take estrogen or estrogen levels rise, you can have more fluid retention. So it could make it look like the lymphedema is worse. But if we're really talking about the lymphatic system, that's a different story. That's why I do think that most women are being told they have lymphedema when they don't really have lymphedema. They might have water retention, they might have some cellulite, but it's different when we're talking about the lymphatic system. If the lymphatic system is really blocked, okay, different story. Now we need to talk about liver detoxification, dry brushing, Abhyanga, Ayurvedic-based massage, sauna, rebounding. We need to get that lymphatic fluid moving. Either way, it's a great recommendation for pretty much everyone, but now I have to give you my disclaimer. I can't provide any medical advice, medical treatment plans, medical cures, medical diagnosis on any of the shows. That is going to help much more, but why don't I do a whole show on lymphedema as well? Because people are confusing it. If there's not a lymphatic-based issue, probably not lymphedema. It's a type of edema, but caused by other things, which could be hormonal. And if you take then more estrogen, yes, hormonal edema or water retention could be worse with estrogen. All right, Kay's up next. And progesterone as well. I will say that. It can happen as well. Whenever there's an excess, it could be. All right, Kay says, hi, Dr. Ball. What are your thoughts on metformin combined with naltrexone and vitamin B12 for the symptoms of PCOS? Or treatment of PCOS, but my 31-year-old daughter has tried over the last few years to manage her PCOS with traditional Chinese herbs, acupuncture, yoga, Pilates, which have only given her limited success. Her hemoglobin A1C were in the pre-diabetic range. She lives in NYC with a demanding job, now working with a functional medicine provider. Her tests show high levels of cortisol throughout the day and hormonal imbalances. Weekend hikes and being near nature on occasion have helped her stress levels, as shown by her Oura Ring data. After about a month on the prescription regimen, she has noticed an improvement in her hemoglobin A1C and has hired a personal trainer. For true sustainable wellness, what do you recommend? All right, so keep in mind that herbs and all of these things are only as good as the practitioner. And again, I don't want to say that in a negative way, but it's like, yeah, being able to save money on your taxes is only as good as your tax accountant, right? Being able to learn how to play the piano is only as good as your instructor, your teacher. So just kind of keep in mind that I saw like 100 different practitioners and doctors before I met my mentor. Now, no one should have to do that. I'm gonna say it's never gonna take that long, but it can take a half a dozen. It really can, like to find like the right person. So working with a functional medicine practitioner now, great, but I'm telling you, if it's a medical doctor, unfortunately, anybody can use the term functional medicine. You don't know what you're getting. You really have no idea. So, but I know it's difficult to have labs shipped into NYC, so obviously doing your best. If it's a medical doctor, FM, like a functional medicine medical doctor, I would also probably work with an IHP from the IHP community. You can connect with them at integrativehealthpractitioner.org. Again, we have no relationship with their practice. They run their own practices, but it's something worth checking in on. All right, now let's talk about metformin. fairly, benign in terms of medications. It's certainly not one that I would ever recommend anybody use unless absolutely needed, like if they were type 2 diabetic or maybe pre-diabetic. However, with pre-diabetic, I would still use all natural-based means. I would use the glucose support. I would use the GLP-1 tone. Like that's an amazing system to use. Now, Trexone, again, now we're getting into a little bit more serious-based drugs here. So all of these things will manage blood sugar levels. And if you can exercise and you can reduce stress and work on all the things, great. Maybe the drugs help you for the next 6 months or so. But the game plan, in my opinion, is still to find the underlying root cause. And with PCOS, you need to look at optimizing vitamin D3. You need to look at optimizing your stress levels, your adrenal levels. You need to look at optimizing androgens like testosterone. You need to relieve estrogen dominance in the body. So it's looking at the HPA axis, that's your stress, that's your adrenals, affecting the HPG axis, that's the ovaries, or in this case, it's called the hypothalamus pituitary gonadal axis, right? So really important because it can also lead to thyroid issues. And I wouldn't be surprised if she's slightly hypothyroid, which then can affect the glucose levels and, overall inflammation in the body too. So if your functional medicine provider can run the equivalent to the big five, I would do that, or at least the stress, mood, and metabolism test, plus the Candida metabolic and vitamins test for the gut. Like without a doubt, I'd at least start there. All right. Becky's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for using your story to help others heal. Thank you, Becky. Appreciate that. I'm an IHP 2, and I need advice. I'm working with a client. She's in her mid-30s, and she has had a horrific breath and overall dryness of her entire body since childhood. Her dad and siblings have the same issues along with the oldest daughter. She has tried everything imaginable product to fix her breath with zero success. She has done the 21-day detox and has finished up the CBO protocol with H. pylori and will be starting the finisher. She did an HTMA last year with someone else, but nothing alarming. She's hopeless that her breath can't be fixed. What is your suggestion as to what direction we should go next? She does not drink filtered water, is on birth control and an antidepressant. Thanks. Okay. So you're doing the right thing. You want to make sure that it's not a gut issue. Most common causes of bad breath are stomach issues, intestinal issues. I always talk about it. It's like a garbage disposal and you put food down it, but you haven't turned it on in a few days or a week. It's going to smell, right? Because everything is basically rotting. There's bacteria. You don't want that. The second main cause is that there's actually something more local, that the gums are inflamed, that there's improper, that someone's not literally brushing their teeth twice a day. Some people don't. That maybe they're not flossing, or at least they could start with oil pulling. So there's a lot of great companies out there for oil pulling. You could just use coconut oil if you wanted to. You could just use sesame oil if you wanted to. Or there are other companies like, what's the name of the company? Happy Mouth? Happy Mouth? I think that might be the name of the company. They make a nice one too. Ayurvedic-based companies like Himalayan make a swish for your mouth. So you can get a lot of great ones out there, and you would do that twice a day. Just basically, you can do it before or after brushing your teeth. It depends on how you want to do it. There's really no wrong way to do it, honestly. And then, of course, spit that oil into the toilet, not down your sink, because it can cause some plumbing-based issues. All right, so that's where I'd start. Definitely finish up the CBO. Keep going there. Make sure there's no parasites, and then move on to the local as well. All right? All right. Kaylee's up. I'm a 24-year-old, 5'2", 123 pounds. I have diagnosed rheumatoid arthritis that has severely impacted my life. I currently take methotrexate, Plaquenil, folic acid, and folinic acid. I'm struggling with debilitating fatigue, and my IBS has recently flared up. Is there anything you would suggest doing to improve energy levels? 100%. So, Kaylee, so here's the thing. All four of my grandparents had rheumatoid arthritis. My parents have rheumatoid arthritis. I had rheumatoid arthritis at 17 years old. I had it for a few years. We'll say maybe up until 27, but I think I got rid of it sooner than that. And now I don't have it anymore. And it's been 20 years, right? And so when you look at that, it's in the genes, but there's so much that you can do to fix it. And by you taking folic acid and folinic acid, I know that you're probably newer to our community. And that's great. No issues at all. But I know that you haven't been down the rabbit hole yet. So please read The Rain Barrel Effect. It's free. It is my book I shared with people, like once my practice was so crazy busy. We had a 6-month wait list. I'm like, I don't want to open up a million more locations. I have 2 locations. I'm good. Like, I'm happy. This wasn't my goal to franchise, right? So I wrote the book. Then I started the podcast, or technically I started the podcast, then wrote the book, but it was to give it all away. And so that's the start. The rain barrel effect is the start of your journey, how you got here, how to empty your rain barrel and get well. Then I have another book coming out, which I'm not sharing fully yet, but in a couple months, look for that. Excuse me. Read the rain barrel effect first. I could give you all the different suggestions, but you want to have the understanding behind it. So I am going to recommend that you run the Big 5. There's no doubt about that. If you can't, then you'll run what's called the starter kit, also called the vitamin tox test. But start with the rain barrel effect. StephenCabral.com/freebook. I pay to print it. You just pay to ship it. That's it. And then the Big 5 are at StephenCabral.com/big and the number 5, or StephenCabral.com/starter-kit. Either one, whatever works for you. Big 5 is just more comprehensive. And then we'll help you get to the underlying root cause. You shouldn't have to suffer like you are. All right, Amanda is up next and last for today. Does chiropractic treatment benefit children diagnosed with ADHD? Okay, so I'll say this. Chiropractic is not a cure for ADHD. However, chiropractic care can help with the autonomic nervous system and help relieve maybe some of the tension, pain, or even inflammation from the sympathetic nervous system. So possible, and yes, there have been great, I guess, anecdotal based evidence of that, but that's not again, I've got lots of shows on ADHD, but first place we need to start is cleaning up the nutrition. And I just did a show on this. Let me see if I can find this for you, Amanda, real quick. And I know that I never try to search because nobody here wants to listen to dead air as I search podcasts, right? But you can always ask at cabralsupportgroup.com. Just say, hey, where are Dr. Cabral's shows on ADHD? And our amazing team will get you those. But I think it was on last Friday's show on 3500. I think it was there. I'm not positive. But I talked about how ADHD is greatly relieved by going on an anti-inflammatory diet, greatly relieved by reducing any type of artificial colors or flavors in food, greatly relieved by adding in omega-3s, certain B vitamins, and zinc. Like, all of these things are factual. I've worked with hundreds of families with children with ADD, ADHD, executive functioning disorder, and much more, where the turnaround has been tremendous within 12 weeks, and it should be for most children as well, because children respond much faster than adults that have been living with these things for decades. So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the show. All previous shows are at StephenCabral.com/podcast. That's where you can check them all out. Have an amazing day, everybody. I'll talk with you soon. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.